6 o'clock. I will call this meeting to order. Roll has been taken. Need a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Cheryl, second by Bart to approve the agenda. Any questions? Or if not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Minutes of the previous meetings.
I'll second.
Motion by Ross, second by Bart to approve the minutes of the previous meetings. Any questions at all? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. All right. I believe whichever one of you want to start the proceedings.
You want me to start?
Yeah.
All right. So, it is our understanding that Sensient sent over the agreement shortly after 5.
To the attorney.
So, we should have a signed agreement, which is good. And all the language and stuff like that has been worked out over the last couple of days. Went back and forth with their attorneys, the city's attorney. So I think everybody's on the same page with that. So what we're asking now is for, and really it's something that you guys will decide, is to award the bid. We talked about it a little bit last time, the numbers that came in. Some people weren't here last time. Yeah.
I had a prior obligation from months ago.
Yeah. So just to recap, Stop came in at $13,327,000, and CD Smith came in just less than 50,000 more, $13,375,000. So what we talked about last time is that it was good to see that the numbers were pretty close to each other. That means the contractors understood the plans, and there weren't things that were questionable that they had to make assumptions on, so that's good. The bad news was that it came in high, and so we had to relook at rates. So we worked with Staub a lot in the past. They're one of the big wastewater treatment plant construction companies, and we've worked with them. We have a good relationship with them over the number of years, so we recommend that the commission awards Staub Construction the construction project.
Does anybody have any questions?
What kinds of things push that cost up? I mean, I know materials, but is there anything in particular that was higher than we expected?
Well, it was mostly materials. A lot of the equipment. So during the planning and design phase, I got equipment prices, and so all those went up 20 to 30%, and that's roughly what we were over. So there were certain things, versus the facility plan estimate, against the design, where once you start digging into the details and stuff like that, there's...
we did add some scope to the project.
Yeah. So there's like extra paving. We didn't add any structures or anything like that, but there was minor, I think, scope additions that bumped it up a little bit, plus the material costs.
What were the additional things that were added?
Just some valves, other stuff that just needed to be changed that we didn't catch at first.
Yeah, there were other things that changed, and the cost might have changed slightly. Like we went from a dome cover of the package plants to a flat panel. Boiler stayed the same. We're redoing the reuse pumps. That was, initially we thought that those were in good shape.
I don't know if you had clarifier equipment in there at first either.
Yeah, clarifier, yeah, that's true. So, and that was roughly, according to their bid, was roughly $350,000 was just for clarifier equipment.
What was determined, Alex, with the shed that we were talking about originally, size, is that included, is that
I
scaled
believe
back,
that
scaled
is-
down?
That has been unchanged.
Okay.
Just
Well, it was changed from the original one though, because it had
okay.
concrete, like, it wasn't the first plans of the storage unit to have a bathroom and.
Yeah.
Okay, so this
No
is
bathroom.
just basically a warehouse looking building. There's no.
Nothing in it, other than lights and,
Yep.
There's
metal
lights,
frame,
there's, yeah, water and
Just a sink.
there's
Like
some
a
heat
wash
in it, there's
sink.
heat in it then.
heat in there, yeah.
Yeah. But it's, yeah, it's steel framed, metal panel on the outside, metal roof. Basic insulated shed, pretty much.
Well, the other one was the roof. We're fixing the
Right, yeah,
roof.
the roof onto it too.
That was added during design as well.
This is a steel gird building.
I think.
Yeah,
it
I'm
means
talking about the existing building.
Existing building, the
Yeah.
roof on the existing building was added.
No, I'm talking about this
But-
building, this
shed.
standalone, stand-aside building is a steel gird building,
Yes,
not a
Yeah.
post and frame
No.
building.
correct. Steel, yeah.
And other projects that have bid in the last few months for treatment plants have also seen this significant increase in price. 20 to 30%, I think, they're seeing across the board. So,
One nice thing with the Clean Water Fund is if you have to go back and ask for more money, it's pretty flexible,
Mhm.
where some of the other funding choices, you have to go through a lot of red tape.
Yeah.
One of our other projects is going through this
Mhm.
with stop construction, and there might be different funding requirements for that extra portion that they're adding. So, so the project came in high, but also the funding, we talked about this a couple meetings ago, you guys, compared to the facility plan, actually got more grant money because of all the changes recently, so. So rate-wise, maybe you guys don't vote on that just yet, and we talk about what the rates are expected to be.
yeah, so Matt and I met with Alex and Lori last week to talk about that equipment replacement fund. Because that has a pretty large impact on your annual budget. You're contributing currently about, what's that?
$8,900 a
Yeah.
month.
Yeah, so about $90,000 a year to that. So we talked about the fact with this new plant coming online, you're not gonna necessarily need the 1.2, almost $1.3 million that you have in there. You may not have to access that money to replace the equipment because it's all gonna be new. And so, we talked about the fact that maybe we could hold off from making payments to that for a couple of years. And then that could offset some of the increase of the rates. So when we looked at that, we kind of determined that we could land at about $35 for fixed, for the fixed rate, and then $10 for the volume charge. So that equates to about $68 on my calculation. It equated to about $68 a month, which is about, yeah, it's about a, let's see, we had $44 prior, so $24 a month increase, potentially. So
Plus usage,
the usage would be
plus
$10 a month, $10 for every.
based on the average.
Yes, based on the
Right.
average use, yeah, yeah. So for some people it might be more, some people it might
Right.
be less, yeah. Yeah. So, and then we talked about potentially doing like another rate increase in a few years so you guys can add some payments back to that equipment replacement fund. So it's kind of like you're almost doing a step increase, but we meet the requirements of DNR by doing this initial rate increase. And then once the loan once we figure out exactly how much the loan's gonna be, because there's contingency and things built into the budget, and we don't know exactly how much, with change orders and things like that, we won't know until the end of the project exactly how much the loan amount will be. So then we can recalculate things at that time, and really figure things out, so. So yeah, we may not need to raise them as much as we expect at the next step, so. But that next step, it would raise, we have it tentatively at, let's see, what do we have down to? I think 36 for fixed and $11 for the volume charge. So I mean, it doesn't even really increase it too much, which you guys should be looking at potentially just doing normal increases going forward, you know, at small increments. So it wouldn't be a bad thing to get into that habit.
Maybe 2 years from now, we'd be looking at doing that.
Yeah. And we'd know more about the loan and stuff at that time.
Yeah, and one reason why we don't know the final amount is because 5% of that loan
Mhm.
is held as contingency. So, as you guys are probably aware, because we're doing a lot of digging underground and stuff like that, we're probably gonna run into some unknowns. There's gonna be other issues along the way. So, that's reserved for change orders. I know a lot of times when we first see change orders, it kind of makes everybody nervous, which is natural. But something that will hopefully ease some stress is that there's money in the loan already and in the rates already that will cover those items. So part of our job during construction is to make sure that those change orders are required and to negotiate them with the contractor. So
And DNR also does a review on those as well, to ensure that, you know, the contractor isn't adding too much to their.
they have to have a fixed
like a
profit
yeah, like
amount.
a 15%.
Yeah. And they have to break out
Mhm.
the
Yeah.
change order and everything like
Yeah.
that. So there's cases where the contractor says, hey, here's a change order, you owe us, this is an extra 10 grand or something like that. And a lot of times we can point to the spec or the plans and say, well, it's right here on, you know, page 500 or something like that, right? So it's a lot of back and forth.
Mhm.
Sometimes you guys will be aware of it. Sometimes it's kind of a negotiation between us and the contractor. You know, we can normally work with the plant staff and stuff like that. And then normally what we do is if it is deemed acceptable and approved and stuff like that, then we bring that to you guys. So.
Okay. So, do we have a motion to accept the bid?
I'll make the motion to accept the bid.
I'll second it. Motion by Bart, second by me, to approve the bid from Staub Construction. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried.
What do we got next? Contract?
Next would be the construction-related services contract. So, do you guys have a copy of that?
Yes, I believe there's one.
Yes.
Yep. So, once you guys have that in front of you, we have an estimated amount of $875,000. It's broken out in a couple different phases, or I guess a couple different ways. So the first way is lump sum. A lot of those are based on meetings and some of the knowns of the construction project versus the estimated fee. A large portion of that is based on our engineer or tech or field service person that'll be on site. And so we believe we're conservative on that number. And it really depends on the contractor, how they're doing and stuff like that. So if everything's going great, then our field staff won't necessarily need to be on site all the time. And if we're kind of having a hard time during construction, then they'll be on site more often. So
Out of curiosity, are there reports that are gonna be submitted and, you know,
yep.
in the bid?
Yeah, normally our field staff will do a weekly or monthly update and that'll normally come with an invoice, just so you guys know what you're paying for, essentially. So
Okay.
that'll give you an update on what we're doing, what the contractor's doing. We typically have a link for photos and stuff like that on a Google photo album or something that you guys can pull up and kind of just see ongoing progress.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we have written reports, because we've had contracts that somehow or another there weren't written reports, and something failed and we wound up paying twice for it.
Yeah.
I want that. So,
Yeah, I mean, so part of our job too is documentation, right? Like if they put it in, we need to know when it was installed and when that warranty period starts. And then if something fails, a lot of times it's a negotiation, not a negotiation, but us informing the contractor that this is under warranty and it needs to be fixed by a certain
Okay.
time. So,
just checking.
yeah. So the other thing to note is that we put an approximate date of April 2023 all the way out to the end of 2025. So I know the contract's a very large number. It probably doesn't help to say that it's over a long period of time, but it is all the way to the end of December. So we most likely won't be on site, the entire time. We aren't going to just be on site if nobody is doing work. So we'll be there if the contractor's there and there's, critical work being done.
Okay.
So, and part of our job is to make sure that when they're installing things, it's according to the plans, it's according to the specs. We've seen plenty of times where they're laying rebar and, there's large sections that you would think would be pretty obvious for contractors, right? And our field staff is there to catch that type of stuff, so.
And was this all factored in when we were discussing financing and?
Yep, it's in the loan, it's on the budget for the loan, so it would be included, it would be requested as part of clean water fund. Anything?
So then the other thing to note is if you look at the total construction cost versus the design fee plus the CRS fee, it comes out to 12 or 13%. During facility planning, we took our cost estimate and we, just for planning purposes, typically assign a percentage. And that percentage, if you add up those numbers during facility planning, was actually less than these numbers here. Once we put pencil to paper and actually figured out the hours, we know the contractor and stuff like that. So I don't want to say for certain that construction is going to go great, but we do have a lot of confidence in staff, and they have a lot of experience with treatment plants. So,
Yep. And funding wise too, they know the requirements that are required for the funding agency, and they're really good about meeting those and communicating with us on that. So.
Okay.
Would it be within that portion of the contract where we lay out if we get as-built drawings and everything?
yep. So part of the what page is it on here? Page 3 of 12 there at the bottom, post-construction. So part of the final deliverable will be record drawings of actually how it was installed or where things are installed. We'll get an O&M manual. There'll be startup and operator training. A lot of that is done through the manufacturers. So.
Okay.
I might want a bigger copy than 11 by 17, but
Oh yeah.
that's chump change for
Yeah.
this project,
Yeah.
this contract, so.
All right. Anybody have any other questions for them? If not, I'll accept the motion for professional services agreement.
Second.
Motion by Ross, second by Cheryl to approve the professional services agreement. Is there any more discussion?
Can I just add one thing? With, we we talk about a lot of underground and unexpected utilities, things like that. With this new construction, you know, we have a pretty high dollar GIS system. You know, can we coordinate with this person to be pinpointing those new underground utilities and or ones that are gonna be remaining in there, so it's on our mapping? You know, you have your as-built on a PDF, but also be incorporated in our GIS system somehow, where if we do have an issue down the road, we're not digging around trying to find something, you know. I don't know if that's something we can work with. I know it's always something we talk about with road projects, wanting to do that, and we just never do it. So this is one of those things where right now we don't know exactly where our airlines are, and
Yeah.
it'd be nice just to have it in our system. We know it's gonna carry over for the longevity of our system, and just something, it doesn't affect this at all, but.
Definitely be an adder, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, it's not included in here, but we can,
And it doesn't need to be added work by MSC. I mean, if it's time to call Alex out or me to pinpoint something,
Point that line out.
it's on us, you know, but.
yeah.
It's that communication piece that you're
Right.
looking for, with that opportunity to do what
Yep.
we need to do,
That's it.
Yeah.
what we want to do.
Any more questions?
Sorry.
No problem, no.
The last thing on that would be is a lot of the pipes will have tracer wire on it
Okay.
as well, so we'll be able to find stuff.
Okay. So, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.
Yeah, I think the last thing is, next steps is we'll get the construction agreement between the city and the STOB. We'll start sending that back and forth. We normally use DocuSign, if that's okay. Kind of speeds up the process instead of in the mail.
Stobbs already called me.
Yeah. Yeah, because of the other funding agency that's giving money that we just talked about and the other requirements and everything, I think STOB's kind of in limbo because some of their other projects they need more money approved for, and there's a longer process, right? And so they might end up passing the 60-day mark where your prices are held. So I think a lot of their other projects they're trying to figure out exactly where they're going to go. Because there was one point where if we had to rebid this project, they were saying that they potentially wouldn't bid it because they're already full with projects. But now those projects that they were supposed to be full might not, or they don't really know what's going to happen with them. So kind of interesting times, I guess.
Okay.
So, and then last thing would be rates.
Rates, yep.
When is that?
So those would need to be put into effect beginning of the April billing.
So we have to vote on those tonight.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So
That's it's on the agenda.
it is on the agenda, yeah. So, Sensient did agree to paying beginning April 1st, or beginning the April payment for theirs. Again, theirs is about $24,000 a month. And then, yeah, the rates would increase from 2010 for the fixed to $35. And then the volume charge is $7.39 right now, and that would go up to $10. So.
All right. I know nobody wants to do this,
I was
so
gonna say, you get nominated to make that.
I will make the motion to increase the rates, the sewer rates from 2010
Yeah.
to $35 and from $7.39 to $10. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Ross. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. We're paying more. And the Sensient contract we don't, do we have a finalized copy?
You do not, I have it, I do have one. I can go print them off real quick if you like, or before you leave.
If you would be so kind.
Okay, now or later? No?
Well, we can move it to the end and
Okay, we'll move it to,
put it under, after reports of the officials. That's all right?
okay.
Give her time to run them off. Okay,
Should we stay?
Are we good?
Or do you want us to stay? We should probably, I can stay for that part.
Or I can take minutes.
I can stay.
We got the tape. Oh, it's doing.
You can continue. She'll watch
Yeah.
the recording later.
okay. Then we,
Can you tell me as far as the Sensient contract, what was the, do we know what we finally agreed to or what they finally agreed to with the changes that have been back and forth? Because I know we don't have the copy yet, but I don't think we're all gonna get the time to
I
read
mean,
it.
I can probably go, like,
Go
let you know,
right
because
ahead.
I've kind of been,
I've
Matt and I have kind of been involved in that. So,
I've been trying to arrange these emails.
one of the major changes that they didn't want to agree to was the bonding
Yeah.
and, like, letter of credit. So what was finally decided on was, so Sensient Flavors is a subsidiary of Sensient, which is a international company, I guess. And so your guys' agreement is with Sensient Flavors. And so Sensient, the company, has signed a document that says if for some reason Sensient leaves Juneau or folds for Sensient Flavor folds or whatever, they will then pay the loan. They will cover the loan for you guys. And the attorney was still a little on the fence about that. He still was kind of a little bit uncomfortable. So what he suggested to put into place, he worked with the attorneys last week between Sensient and him. They talked about it. And he had them put in language that if they're late on a payment, that they then have 60 days to either make the payment or get a letter of credit at that time. So essentially, it kind of is, you know, showing if they can't make the payments, then they need a letter of credit. So until they start not paying, that's when that letter of credit will be required.
And rather than a lump sum payment, they're planning to pay monthly. And they begin when the project starts or when the project is completed?
They agreed to start in April because
2023.
2023. So next month will be their first $24,000 payment.
Because my understanding was from the paperwork I
Yes.
saw, they didn't want to start
They
until the
did not.
project was completed.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Correct.
oh, this is not
Yeah.
working for me.
Yeah, that was definitely,
Yeah.
and that was a sticking
My,
point
my
too.
comment was, is you pay out a loan, you gotta start paying on it.
Yeah.
They don't normally give you
Yeah.
Yeah, and the DNR wouldn't have agreed to
year and
that
a half
either. We
to
wouldn't be
wait
able
to
to
pay.
close on the loan without that. So, and that's kind of when we talked to the finance and attorney people and let them know that they were like, oh, okay, and then you agreed to that.
Okay.
That's
Um,
the corporate guarantee.
Yeah, so this is the agreement that essentially says Big Sensient will pay
little sensient.
Little Sensient's debt if
That's the
they
guarantee.
go away, so.
And what
Inside the
happens if the big parent goes away?
Yeah.
Just
And-
I mean, I'm.
Right, no,
I'm not
and that's a
being
great question,
sarcastic.
and that's what the attorney
No,
said.
that's
He
good.
said, you know, there's like a 1% chance that the big company could go away. But I mean, they've been around since, I think, the attorney looked it up. I think it was like 1869 or something. They've been around a really long time. So, I mean, there's definitely a 1% chance that they could go away. But the attorney felt with these other things in place that it puts you guys in a good position.
Still a heck of a concession over a bond.
Yes, and the reason they did not want to do that is it was going to cost them $80,000 to have to do that, which is a lot of money. And I mean, that's a drop in the bucket to
But
$5
it's
million that it
But
would
it's a
put you guys
guarantee
on
on
the
our behalf.
right.
You don't have that 1% chance.
Right. Yeah.
The bond is sitting there with monies backing it to
Yeah.
make us whole.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can see why our attorney
Yes.
balked,
Yes.
because he's
Yes.
looking out for the best interest of the city of
Understandably so,
Juneau.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's why he added that statement up for if they do miss a
Yeah,
payment.
so item 3 on that agreement that you're looking at is what he had them add, about them, missing out on
We don't
payment.
have a color printer, so it doesn't come out.
Oh,
right.
yeah, that's okay. But
And
that's
here's red.
what he added. But yeah, when he started looking into the big Sensient Corporation, the attorney, he was like, oh, their stock price is, what did he say, $70
He
or
was
something?
feeling better about
Yeah.
it. Yeah, he wanted to make clear that there's still risk,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak for him, but yeah, he was becoming more positive about it. And
Yeah.
then after that conversation with us, he had a direct conversation with
Okay.
Sensient, and that's when they
And the
added
attorney,
the letter of credit.
yeah.
That came on Friday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I know I was getting these updates and I
So
have,
their percentage totals out to about $5 million at the 34% of the $13 million contract.
Plus interest, so
Yeah, it'll end up being about 5.7 million that they're paying and over the life of the loan.
that's,
Yeah, you hear that parent company stuff, all of a sudden somebody gets sold off and the name gets changed and, they're in existence, but they're not really in existence and stuff like that. So, that always makes me nervous when I was following with the correspondence. And I give our attorney credit, he was sticking to his guns on it until the very last. The deadline was something that I think really played into this more so than anything.
You just said something about 5.8 million on this sheet that I have here. It says,
That one?
in no event will Sensient pro rata cost exceed $5,125,000. Is that still?
That one should have been taken out.
that's a
Yeah,
different
that
page.
should have been taken out. That was something too that
It's
they
all-
kept
it's all
putting
one.
back
It's
in.
all
and
one. This is
We were
all
like,
one.
no, you decided not to make a lump sum payment, so that
That's
doesn't
all-
apply
that's all
anymore.
contract.
Yeah, so that, yeah,
Again, I know this isn't the final, but these
Yeah.
were some of the things that they were looking to
Yeah.
have
Did-
changed.
yeah.
Dan, did
And
you
that,
get one?
yeah, and that was shown
No.
too, I thought really well in
Yeah.
the schedule, and it showed all their payments and all the interest and why it was that amount.
Yeah.
Does
So,
anybody else need
I
one?
think there was just a lot of questions of
Need
planning
to-
versus.
I did, it's behind you, sure.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is.
and then I'm trying to think for their other, there was just a couple things that they reworded, some language, which their lawyers that did it more concise. It was pretty much the same content, it was just a little bit more concise and better worded. And then.
There was a question about the 34% versus the 30% principal forgiveness, and they said, well, why don't we get 34%? But there was just a disconnect on the understanding of the grant versus
Yeah.
what their allocation is.
Yeah. Yeah, and when we figured out how much they owed, we also looked, so there was that parallel cost, I don't know if you guys remember that back with the facility plan, Matt had to do something called a parallel cost analysis, which looked at how much industry played a role in the project, and he determined that essentially 7% of the project was due to Sensient, so we took that portion of the loan off, and that part, they have to pay full market rate, which is 3.9%. So if you, I think it's the last page of the agreement, there's like, it's like $1 million of their payment that they have to pay the 3.9% on. So that's actually not, you guys are getting the full subsidized rate at, which is the 2.145%. For the entire loan, whereas before it was kind of this combined, like, weird rate, but now Sensient is gonna pay that full market rate, and you guys get the full subsidized rate. Again, it doesn't do too much, but it's a little bit. So,
Right,
yeah, overall.
so. Anybody have any questions on the Sensient contract? They can answer while they're still here. If not, I will accept the motion to approve it.
I'll make the motion to approve it.
We have a motion to, Bart made the motion to approve the Sensient contract.
I'll second it.
And Ross will second. Is there any discussion? I've been going through emails and everything else, trying to get it in some kind of chronological order. And I get it, when it comes back, it prints everything I got before that, and then all of a sudden I get something else from somebody else that repeats it. I was pulling my hair out and I don't have a whole lot. So. Is there any? If not, call a question. All in favor of approving the Sensient contract signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is carried. So,
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Will you be able to send me the signed agreements
That was a lot.
tomorrow?
Yeah,
How are-
I haven't gotten the actual sign.
How are the kids?
Yeah, no, like,
They're sick right
Oh,
now.
those other ones.
like these other
It
ones
would
and
be
stuff, if you could
wise.
send
So-
those to me.
I don't know.
Well,
I'm going over
That would be
that.
great.
They were sick when I talked to you.
Yeah, one of them has been
I
missing
think it's
school.
very wise.
Oh.
And the little guy, of course, doesn't want to go to school. The older guy's not going to
Yeah.
school. All right.
All
Thank
right,
you, everybody.
Thank you.
You can ask
Moving on
specifically.
to monthly business. Approve the vouchers and the checks.
So moved.
Second.
What happened to our furnace there at the
Uh,
office there?
There was the dampener that's between the office and back here. It's been giving us issues for probably beginning of winter. So we ended up taking it out while we were trying to keep it cool in here, and they were still getting heated out in the office. Big time, it was like 82 degrees in there when it was like 69 degrees in here. So they ended up putting a new dampener in by Lori's office there.
$1,400?
Well, it was 2 visits and they had to take,
Jesus.
Oh, no, it's like 3 or 4 times a year.
so,
They first took out the damper that goes from here to there so that we could see if it was the damper making the noise.
because, I forgot.
And then it didn't make the
It's on the
noise,
schedule
so
to
then
be cooler at night.
they had to come back to check something else, and then it still made a noise, and then they put the new one in, and yeah, it was a lot of back and forth.
Energy saving.
So,
We'll see how it works now, Cheryl, right?
I said to him, so you gotta
I
fix
usually,
why am I so
I try to
cold?
remember to hit it once I leave the office and I forget.
Thanks for letting me mess with you. I'm really actually okay. My toes are a little sore.
Yeah, the thing always did seem to be fairly balanced before, you know.
It wa-
When we remodeled here, I was in on all of that stuff, and I suggest that we do it that way, and it worked out pretty well. I mean, it was always within a couple degrees from the office to out here. But $1,400 for a damper? We probably paid that for the furnace.
Oh,
when we
yeah, I was gonna
remodeled.
say, yeah, you're lucky you didn't call Trane.
Called train, that would have been 3,000.
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
so, where are we at here?
You have a motion and a second to approve
Yes,
the
we
checks.
made motion by Cheryl.
No, Ross.
Ross,
second.
Ross made the motion, Cheryl seconded it to approve the vouchers and the checks.
Okay, wait a second. Ross and Cheryl? Okay. I didn't know where we were for sure.
Okay. So,
All in favor?
thank you for prompting me. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Prior month income statement. Anybody have any questions at all about that? If not, we will move on. Resolution, council acts affecting the utility. Resolution 58, 2022, approved to amend Personnel Policy Handbook, 105 probationary period. All right. We go to consumption and loss.
The number's gonna come down, Alex, at all? And
I
not with the
can
rain that
promise
we-
you infiltration for February is gonna be horrible. That inch and a half of rain is
No, that was like,
wreaking havoc on us. We went from 500,000 to 900,000 and it's stayed there. So,
it's wet everywhere.
yeah. So we're gonna be at, I would bet 40% next month.
I just wondered based on, that was January, so I think
Yeah.
that's okay.
January's waters have
But we never had
been-
frost really in the ground too, so the numbers are probably,
Okay.
Groundwater pump is still status quo out there in White Pines.
I looked at it.
Never gonna shut off until we get the summer drought.
Well, I know my sump pump was.
So if there's a
running, so
water
I know.
shortage anywhere and you want some groundwater to drink,
There you
I'll
go.
show you a place to go.
It's 150 gallons a minute. Pump is put down.
All right.
I might need another one.
It doesn't even go down. Just
Oh, it had when we were broke between that last one.
Rebuild, okay, totals of delinquent customers. Month and a half to go.
5 weeks. Pam's excited.
Can you
Oh,
give
it is,
consumption
Lori,
on that now?
I only have 5 more weeks till
Look at it
disconnect.
first. A month I had
But
since.
now since we quit the permit.
She looks forward to that.
She does.
And she likes to get the money that's
Yeah, we
supposed to be
budget
paid, the
1
people
quarter.
that are due.
She,
That
Right
and
here.
listen to the people's stories of why they can't pay.
she's got, what did she say? She mailed out 105 letters,
Oh, I think this past month was 180 something,
180 letters.
just as a past due reminder type of thing.
She's,
We do have people coming in the office now that are asking, and how long do we have until the, till the moratorium's over, until we get disconnected?
Integrity says you pay it now.
Yeah, so she does, she's like, well, the more you pay now, the less you have to worry about later.
she's been telling us, just getting cash,
Mhm.
Just making sure they get their tax return.
and she's been getting a lot more
We just want to make
cash
sure they get
than
their tax
checks.
return back in time.
Which
Well,
is,
that is true.
and they walk in with $100 bills, well, which is really nice. And they can do it every day, all these people that don't pay. So, moving on. Utility accountant.
We're still working with the audit. It started on Wednesday officially, and Thursday when I left, we had 2 more pieces to cover, and I thought, well, I'll get those done on Friday, and then they had questions about some other things, and so that never got done, and so today we finished one of those 2 original things, and I have 5 more questions. It's been ongoing, so we're winding down, and there's just a couple minor things. A lot of it is just time consuming, where they want invoices for justification of like the street projects and that kind of thing, and plant assets and
And
whatever,
there's-
so.
And there's a new standard or agreement
Yeah.
standard with the pole attachments between Ameritech and Charter.
Any kind of leases, there's a new, it's called the GASB accounting principle or something, and so, or standard. And so they had to go through all of our leases and stuff, so that was added on Thursday.
That's taking a little bit.
Isn't there a date when we can renegotiate those pole attachment agreements and stuff?
Yeah, they're,
Always used to be like every 5 years or
I-
something, we used to be able
we
to.
pulled it out and gave them copies. I didn't look at the date. So
It does
I
go up,
can look at
it does go up 3% every year automatically.
Automatically it does?
Yeah.
Okay. Never used to do that.
Yeah,
Used to
yeah,
be
the
a
last
fixed thing for a
contracts that were
period of
signed.
time, and then we used to have to make sure we caught in the window where you could adjust it.
Yeah,
No, and that's the standard now, because someone, I think it was a Commonwealth, tried raising the
Yep,
rates, and they
yep.
lost that battle. So I think the 3% is the standard for,
Okay.
who knows,
Not the rate of inflation, but.
it's true.
so between audit stuff and sentient stuff, it's been a little hectic in meeting and but everything's been going good, and I did learn a few things this audit with the job costing. There was something that I was doing wrong, so I had to re-enter everything, and not everything, but the way I was doing the plant assets, I had to redo. And then when we took over accounts payable and set up the new checking account, no one from City Hall that knew about the software explained to me that we have to do a bank reconciliation in the software for clearing checks and stuff, which I should have assumed because that's what I had to do on my last software, but I just like, so partially my error, but, so that was one of the discrepancies that they were asking about, with questions that came out and stuff, so. So we're working it through and getting it done, but it's been a little bit of a long process.
Lori, in your community contributions, Nick put together a quote for lighting the exercise area over there. Do we have dollars that we can spend for that?
I
Funnel it right back
think that
around.
we,
Well, I told the rec department to ask you, so he could.
yeah, I think we have like $500 or so maybe.
For the new year?
Oh, for the new year, well,
Yeah.
for the new year, we haven't spent anything.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we've got
We
it
usually
on our
don't do that
finance
until-
agenda for tomorrow night. I'm kind of looking for some
Okay.
advice if we can, because we won't have anything in our budget for it. So I thought it's kind of a nice, those are the kind of things I like to see that money used for. you know,
Yeah.
whatever, so.
I can, I'll look at that and I can email Cheryl maybe
Sure.
tomorrow.
While I'm working with the auditors.
You understand my pain.
I do understand your pain.
No, I think that's like a perfect project. I mean, it's for the community, and it's electric related, so
Right.
it's
That's what I like to see done with that, those dollars.
And it's to the rec center for,
$3,700 or something.
because
I think they were digging it by hand, Cheryl, that's why it was so much.
there's a lot more work.
Well, you
there.
know, since
I
we
gotta-
won't buy them the new equipment to dig it by machine, that, you know, there's the expectation that we have, and, you know, they're getting this new person, this mentor, this apprentice, I mean, hey, break them in good, give them some calluses.
Give them a shiny new shovel,
No, sorry.
That's the old one where,
so we can see if it's getting used or not.
throw the handle brakes. And then
well, that's what I'm saying,
That's
use
why
the
you
rusty
get-
old one, then if he's using it, he wears the rust off.
They don't make the new ones the same, so let's give them the old one.
Then he breaks the new handle and then we
Those
got
fiberglass
trouble.
ones leave shards in your hands.
Great, now we have a working
All right, is that it?
Yeah, I think so.
Does anybody have any questions for Lori,
That was mine.
other than yours? If not, Nick, I believe is next.
The solar panel installation is completed at 219 North Main Street. The anti-islanding test passed. Explain a little bit of how that, all it does is you're disconnecting the line side power from the house to see if the solar panel sensors will turn off and not backfeed onto the system. It's protecting the workers out on the line, and it's protecting our system, so that passed. We have two more panel installations taking place right now, 508 and 520 South Main Street. They're the Habitat homes. We are doing the anti-idling test on it this Wednesday. We're continuing tree trim out on the Goose Trail. We're project staging right now. We wired up 5 transformers, 2 section cabinets, made up some equipment arms right away for some jobs that we know are coming up. So we're staging our projects right now. Hopefully things start drying up, or Mother Nature starts to decide whether or not it's going to be winter, if it's going to be spring. So we replaced 13 fixtures to LED. We finished out from West Oak Grove, starting at Quitchup, going west out of town, which we did most of that already, so we just had to do from Village Garden. There was 5 there. And then we also did the remaining non-LED lights that start at Quitchup going south on South Main Street out of town. So those were all completed. And with doing the 5 past Village Garden, we did create an outage for the street lights. Never had this before, but we changed out a fixture head. Breaker held for when we put it back in, and then we got a call from dispatch that those lights were out. Went back, troubleshooted, isolated the fixtures. We'll hear the wire in the street light arm from taking that fixture head off or something. Must have been no insulation that broke off over years and touched the streetlight arm and was creating a fault for us. So that took a little bit of time to isolate the issue, because I never seen one fail in the arm, because it's protected by everything. And so then we also took down the Christmas tree extension cords down by the businesses on East Oak Street there. Same exact thing happened. We took all the cords down, put the breaker back in, it held. That night we got a call, came out to make sure that we put the breaker on, because that's never happened before. And it kept tripping on me, so we did the same thing. We isolated the poles, and we had a bad wire inside the arm. We put up the new parking lot lights at the community center, so there's lighting up there now. During our substation inspections, the F1 reclosure at the industrial sub showed signs of a short on the power supply circuit board. We ran through our tests that we can do here, and everything is operational as far as the panel. AC Engineering is coming in tomorrow to take a look at that, so we will be tying our north sub and our industrial sub together so we can isolate that one circuit. So hopefully it's nothing too crucial. Everything seems to be operational, but because the reclosers are our last line of defense for our power transformer, it's a critical piece of equipment to make sure that is working as it should. Been working closely with Martin Riley, which is the engineering firm for the Dodge County housing for the Sunset View. I handed you guys all packets. This is the estimate for the primary extension work that needs to be completed for servicing those houses. So the only thing that's not included with this pricing is the individual services to each duplex and the cost of the transformers, because in our rates and rules we supply up to 100 kVA transformer for standard builds and services. So that is the only thing that's not included with this estimate. So this will be getting emailed out to them tomorrow for them to review, and that's our pricing. Other than that, that's all I have.
Okay.
What rate do we pay people that are putting solar back into the system?
It's at wholesale
At a
or at
wholesale
cost.
rate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, for now, that will be changing, or it's in the works, because we as a utility need to protect ourselves. If everybody puts these solar panels up, our income goes drastically down, and the utility can't put money into the system to have reliable power when things happen. So there is work as WPPI and MEOW memberships to get something in writing to then take to the state to get passed, so.
So that maybe be less than we
Right.
paying
It'll
less
be-
than wholesale then?
Right, it would be at a percentage of what we would sell our cost to the customer. But anybody that puts in now is gonna be grandfathered in. That rate won't change for those customers. So it's kind of we need to get going on this. But, because it's pretty drastic. That one home on Main Street, when it's nice sunny days, they're not using any power from us. It's coming back onto our system. So.
Ones for Habitat, where they got those aimed.
So they got the ones aiming to the south, like they
Right.
should,
Yeah.
but then they got ones on the garage that are
And then there's
aiming
ones
towards the
facing on
west.
the east and they're facing east and west.
West,
And I'm like, yeah, they're not gonna get much out of the ones
And those
east and
aren't
west.
those
And
aren't articulating ones, those are
No,
fixed.
Those are fixed. So that must have been a sales pitch or something. So I don't know. But, I mean, it's good seeing green energy out there, but it comes at a cost. I mean,
So you are able to monitor their,
yep, our meters are dual flow, so all we have to do is update how it registers in our North Star software, and then we can track what they're using.
So anything we buy from them is wholesale and anything we sell them is retail.
Right. For now. For those customers for always. That's what it's sounding like.
Is that the way the law is, or?
At this point, yeah.
Yeah, because I know like in Pennsylvania, my uncle had some and that was not how it worked. Because he was getting some, I don't think he was getting retail, but he was getting better than wholesale, and then all of a sudden, one day they said, well, we're giving you a wholesale rate.
This whole last year, I mean, every WPPI meeting we go to, it's always brought up, like, how are we looking at it and getting this moving through, and they have rates established. The PSC has been reviewing it for 7-8 months already now, so.
so what is the ratio between our wholesale and retail rate? It's like 50%, less than 50%, more than
I
50?
think it's less than 50%. 40-some%, I want to say.
Well, that's pretty good if you could cut your daily use out and still
Oh, absolutely.
send someone back into the system, then I guess it's worth your investment. The payback was so slow. I mean, we looked at it, this is the ideal building to put it on, across that garage, going to the south, you know, if we knew it was gonna pay us back, but when we put the penny to it, it'd be broke down 4 times by
Well,
the
that's
time
the
we got our
thing.
initial investment back.
The older ones, by the time you would get it paid off, it
Yeah.
would be junk. So,
Yep.
but now they're saying that they're lasting a lot
The
longer.
newer panels are supposed to be much better.
Right.
I know, I looked at putting some out at the waste treatment.
And this is all very new,
The
so
articulating,
I'm working really closely with
move
Eric,
with the
trying to
sun
get as
and
much
everything else.
new
And Eric
information
came
as I
back
can.
and said it's not cost.
Well, he even kind of filled us in on this building here, because the south exposure that we would have. Maybe it's something worth looking at, you know.
All right, anybody have any questions for Nick? If not, Alex?
Okay, February 8th, we did receive a letter from the DNR as a notice of noncompliance for failing to distribute public education materials for lead in the drinking water. So there's a pamphlet or a guideline for how many times we need to distribute this education material, which is basically just a pamphlet. And we didn't meet that for last year. Ironically, we did send it out in the February bill. The same day I got the notice of noncompliance was basically the day it got mailed out. So, with that going out, we were able to get back into compliance within the DNR's mind, but it was too little too late. So then, I don't know if you get March bills yet, but you'll get another thing in the March bill saying that we messed up, basically, a public notice saying that we did have this non-compliance. So, following that going on in the March bills, we should be free and clear of that issue. We will not have to do that education program once we do finish getting out all the lead within the city. The other option would be to sample all the lead homes and stuff in town for lead again, and it's just not feasible. So we'll just keep distributing the education materials and move on from there. February 10th, we found a pretty substantial air leak at well 2 here, coming out of our air compressor. It was just a number of pinholes in the bottom of the tank. I was able to take it back to our shop and weld it to make it hold. Mind you, I'm not a certified pressure tank welder, so I did order a new air compressor. It is a roll air that I ordered through Lincoln Contractor Supply. Should be here next month. We'll also replace all of the associated hardware that helps to keep moisture out of the tank as well, so to try and keep the corrosion at bay for the next model.
Did you check with Roll Air right over in Hustisburg about buying it direct, or?
They won't sell direct,
Hmm.
to my knowledge.
Sold the fire department,
They don't do it anymore. Easter just did the same thing. They tried driving over there, they wouldn't do that.
Yeah. So I worked with the guys for sizing it and stuff through the factory, but they said you have to purchase through the
Okay.
dealer. So I went with Lincoln Contractors because they actually do service, do all the warranty service as well. So
Good.
Yep. And probably noticed on both what is it, Oak and Fair Street, and then on Jewel Street we had Northern Pipe come in to do some manhole work. The one on Oak Street was a storm sewer, so that was Scott's responsibility, but the one on Jewel Street was a sanitary sewer. So what happened was a snowplow hit the manhole casting and broke it, and then as the snowplow drove over it, the manhole lid flipped into the middle of the street. So we kind of figured in an emergency fashion this probably has to get fixed. So we had Northern Pipe come out, and that was $2,750 to make that repair, which I would have liked to do myself, but we just don't have the manpower, and Scott doesn't either. Well, Scott claimed he didn't either, so that was, somebody had to do it.
Do we have any insurance for incidents like that? I'll have to ask Megan.
And that street's getting done, supposed to get paved this year, I believe. And every manhole on that street is high, and then they've been hit quite a bit, so we'll probably, once the asphalt is pulled, more than likely we're gonna wind up replacing the rest of the castings.
Well, if it's anything like Depot and, are you talking on East Oak, you're saying?
This one is Jewel, but all those manhole castings are 3/4 of an inch out of the asphalt, so snowplows don't play nice with those.
Oh, years ago we bought those, tapering rings. Like you cut around the manhole. Yeah, we had a software back in the day. I don't know if we have it anymore. It's this big saw that went all the way around the manhole, and then we had these rings that would taper off the manhole to the road.
Yeah. That's something we can look into for sure. Yeah.
I don't know if they have it anymore.
Yeah, because we just had a cone over this one for a while, and it got hit by a car a time or two, so it needed to get done. So that was done February 28th. I had mentioned at the last meeting that lift station 4, pump number 2, had failed and was pulled. We did get correspondence back from Sobel saying that that pump is essentially junk. It was, I don't even have it with me, I don't think, but not worth repairing. So
It's pretty old though, you
it
said.
was 1998. So, and it was rebuilt once in 14. So it was at the end of
We got our
its-
money's worth.
Yeah, end of its usable lifetime. Sabo quoted a similar or same model replacement at $13,176, but it was also a 12-week lead time. We just happened to, at the time, the Xylem flight rep was at the wastewater plant to talk about products for the wastewater plant upgrade itself. We took them over to the lift station to take a look at it and get a bid put together for it. And he could do it at $11,500 and only a 2-week lead time. So after speaking with Mac, we decided to place that order because we need this pump and we need it now. So they will be coming this week to install it. That will be paid for out of the replacement fund. And that quote also did include some hardware from Flight to be Flight specific for like the relays for the alarm hardware. So some of the alarm hardware that's in the panel is obsolete too. So not only are we getting a cheaper price and a shorter lead time, but we're also getting some more hardware installed new with it.
So we're getting like an upgrade.
Right. And it came down to, that was a $16,000 pump, so it was a higher quality pump that he gave us 50% off on plus that install. Because he really wants our wastewater treatment plant business, which I told him we were gonna give to him anyway, but he still gave us a good price, so.
Cool.
Yeah, so we got that order. That should be installed sometime this week, if not next week. I hope it doesn't rain too much until then.
While we're on lift pumps, how we doing on North Main now?
What?
How are we doing on the pumps up on North Main that we were having trouble pushing the head up over the knoll
We upgraded to 3-phase.
on North
Yeah.
Main Street?
Yeah, they've been working fine.
There's
Yeah.
been no issues now?
We haven't done anything with those since they set them in May or June, it was. We haven't touched them, other than a float would stick. I think that happened twice, but yeah, we haven't touched those at all.
But there hasn't been any more clogging or
No.
anything on the discharge line?
No, we haven't had any issues at that station now.
Okay.
So, knock on wood, but we've been pretty lucky with that one.
We were digging it all up at one time.
Yeah, so that was definitely a good investment there. Municipal Well gave us our report from our filter inspections for our iron filters. They were here earlier this year. Wells 1 and Well 2 had age associated. It looked like the age it was, but nothing major. They should be fine for the foreseeable future. Well 3 had a disturbance media within one of the filter cells, which I believe I told you guys about. Their thoughts to fix this in that filter cell is that there could be air caught in it, causing turbulence when you backwash it. I'm hesitant to say that that's the fix, but that's the first option that we have, so we'll try it. So we'll look into seeing how much it'll cost and what parts we will need to install to get that air relief valve either replaced or reworked. It shouldn't be anything major, but we'll try it for now and see what happens. So that was the iron filters. We did get our reporting back from Northern Pipe from their cleaning and televising that they did in January. That came with some quotes as well for remediation or work that we could do on the sewers. The bulk of the issues they found were on East Center Street between the county shop and North Depot Street. So I can kind of show you the reports if you're interested, but almost every seam of every pipe had signs of leaking, and then many of the saddle taps on that pipe were also showing signs of leaking. So,
Why was there saddle taps?
for all
It should have been wise.
I don't believe so. Everything I had was saddles.
It's all redone during the session,
Yeah.
wasn't it?
Whether, I don't know. I would have to look at the video, but a lot of the joints between mains and laterals were showing signs of leaking and or failure. So
Might have been that way from the get-go.
that's basically, and the fact that it's most of the houses in that section, it's whoever put that pipe in did a poor job.
It was Wander. Wander had that contract.
Yeah. And it's only between North Depot Street and the county shop, so basically 3 manhole sections or a block and a half.
But yeah, those all should have been mains with 6-inch takeoffs off of, or all fittings.
That was
There
what?
shouldn't have been any saddles.
That was 2009?
I don't remember. It's, but I'm thinking it was Wander's crew. Because that's when they took out the 911 line, saw it all through all the cabling right alongside the old city hall there. Had it all stacked up like cordwood.
Well, this is not the easiest to look at quickly, but yeah, it's, anyway, to go with that,
That's a 12-inch main run through there, isn't it?
no. Is it?
Sewer main?
This is saying 8.
What's that?
My map says 8,
Only an 8 there?
and it's 10 as you go further east, but that section there is 8.
Because everything goes down Depot Street from that point.
Yes, it does. Yep.
For some reason, I thought we had a bigger main in there.
So,
Because we've got a diversionary manhole at the center of North Main Street and Center Street that we can go both east and west with that, because we put that in at the time we did.
yep.
We could send the sewage each way if we wanted to.
Yes, we do.
Boy, that blows my mind, because that's all new stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all stuff that's,
Yeah, I mean, I have the video of it if you're interested, but that would take a minute to pull up.
we don't have to do that tonight, but
No.
I would be interested.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's 8-inch.
Okay.
yeah. So, what they had,
2007.
yeah. So what they suggested, was
Not that old.
to do,
It's,
yeah, to do, grouting of those sections was, $7,650. To clean and grout 2 of the actively leaking taps was $3,800. And then 4 of the laterals, actually, you can see have mineral buildup where it's almost fully plugging the tap itself. So it's a lot of groundwater infiltration that the mineral slowly builds up over time. So
That's all under concrete there.
some of it is.
It's all
some of it
concrete
isn't.
paving
It's
from,
down to the shop there, yeah.
blame it on the county trucks there. I can try one of them.
We'll see what happens there. But, yeah, they suggest to clean and televise the 4 laterals that were largely plugged. Just to clean and televise it was $6,000 for those 4 laterals, just to see what the issue is. So, it's a lot of money to throw at it. I don't know what to even suggest for the city to do. It's obviously not a this year thing, I don't think. The only thing we would save at this point, doing it this year, is that we'd save a mobilization fee of like $2,000. So, because they will be doing we have a budgeted project for manhole remediation, for I think $20,000 for 10 of the manholes that correspond with our paving projects this year. So they would be here already. We could save $2,000 on having them do this work right away. Then again, with the expanse of how many issues it seems to be, I don't know if there's an option of redoing just sewer pipe. It's gonna be a lot of money too, so I don't have answers to that. But they would definitely, I can,
Could you put in those sleeves, but, what's this stuff called?
Well, you're doing the pipe lining.
Yeah,
Those
pipe
liners.
lining.
Pipe lining would be the other thing I
Right.
guess you'd do.
And I don't know how that works with a lot of the taps being bad. So that's just the pipe itself.
Yeah, I just don't understand that. Those should have all been one-piece fittings. You know, the 8x4 Ys is what's
Right.
supposed to be in there.
Right,
I don't
just
understand
plump
how
right
those can
into
be
it.
broke apart unless the bedding was done so poorly and settling out, what have you, but yeah, I don't think open ditch construction repair is gonna be an option because you're underneath all that concrete and
Yeah.
you'd have to relay that sewage around it. I mean, we do have luxury of being able to keep North Main from not turning in
Right,
there. We can
probably.
send that down Center Street to the west, but
Right. So I mean, what Northern Pipe can do for us is $17,000, but that won't fix all the problems either. That's just a Band-Aid too, so. I don't know.
I'd like to look at that sometime with you.
Yeah, we can, whenever you have time, that's fine. It's,
We should do something, because your infiltration, you just said earlier, you know.
Did you say they were doing grout?
Yeah, so the way he explained it to me is that they'll pressurize a short section of pipe to see if it's leaking or seeping out then. Then they'll put grout in it and pressurize it again to push that grout into any seams. And then they'll pressurize it again
It's a fast setting.
afterwards to make sure it's set, to see if it's holding.
That's not a poly pipe?
Yeah.
That's how he explained it to me, I don't know. 100%.
And your mainline connections are Bell and Gossett, they're, you know, a slip fitter.
Right, and he said,
But like I said, I
you
can't
could
imagine.
see iron staining on a lot of that piping.
Yeah.
So, I might have some pictures at least. At least give you a little bit. So it's kind of hard to see, but most of the piping looked like this, where you could see active, just iron staining around the whole seam. This guy here. So you could tell water was leaking into it. It was done in January, so
Okay.
it wasn't actively leaking at that time. They also found probably 3 different places where the pipe had been creased, sewer pipe was creased, and they recommended it be repaired because it's a structural issue in that it could collapse. Right. The issue with that is one of the creases was on the inlet to lift 2, immediately beneath that very large telephone pole and the actual control panel itself.
Where is this now?
So on the sewer going into lift 2 on North Main Street,
Okay.
the sewer pipe there was bulging up. That's this guy. It's hard to tell, but this is the bottom of the pipe and it goes up about a quarter of the pipe. So then there was two of them up towards the water tower by the manhole that we just found, going to the service that's feeding Archery's monument and such. One being that the joint is completely offset. To repair that, they just recommended a liner. But being that there's no street above that, it would be pretty easy to dig too. Yeah. And about 40 feet up the way, on the same pipe, you could see at a joint, it was crushed as well.
Ovaled.
Yeah. So that was 2 spots along that stretch that should get replaced or patched.
That's just all the improper pipe fitting there.
Yeah, this is for sure rocks underneath it,
Yeah. And there was a couple of those improper shape along Center Street as well, where it was probably not bedded right.
You can drive that street, you know, that bedding was an issue.
There's 2 more where it's the top of the pipe is creasing down. So
Do we televise, is that part of our street project to televise stuff that's installed,
it
right?
has.
You know, before we accept it, yeah, it's always
Yeah.
televised and
I
whatever.
have it.
Was
The
that done?
sad part about it, those problems don't show up until the initial
Right,
settling all
settles,
comes.
right.
15 years later.
Yeah, so that's, obviously, we don't have any money set aside to fix this, and I asked Scott, at least the easy ones, could we do, and we don't have a trench box, and everything's 12 feet deep, so
Yeah, no,
we can't really do it ourselves,
So
so,
what you guys risking doing that, we did that,
I mean,
not worth it.
I don't mind that kind of work, but if we're not gonna buy a trench box, I'm not gonna do it, so. Or that's a really big hole.
Yeah, it is.
So that's kind of some stuff we're gonna have to look at budgeting to repair. Obviously, some of them are on less important lines, but nonetheless, if you have a business on a sewer main that's backed up, it's an issue, so, and once it does fail. One that I probably wanted to do to see if we could dig it, but I didn't have time to put anything on an agenda or get anything prepared, but there is one of those pipe creases was on Jewel Street near City Hall, and that is getting paved this year. So if we were going to fix any of them, that would be the one to dig up and fix right now. But I don't know if I need any approval for that. It's not really an emergency, but we kind of want it done sooner than
There
later.
are dollars in your funds for that?
Not really. That's the other problem. We have,
We'll get a cost estimate
Yeah.
in the spring.
Yeah.
At 20, I mean, right now it's 22%, but during spring it's gonna be more. I mean, you're
Yeah.
throwing money away
right,
if you don't do something,
yeah,
in my opinion.
yeah. So we're, at a minimum, we're gonna have Northern Pipe in to do, the manhole rehabs, which a number of those did have active leaks in them. So we'll have 10 manholes redone within the street projects that will be done this year. So that will help. But there's a lot more separate from that. So we gotta be pretty active on this in the future here to keep sticking money into it. I'll get a number from Town and Country, or I guess probably Town and Country, to see about Jewel Street, fixing that structurally creased section of pipe. Separate from that, like I mentioned earlier, with the rain we had, our flow went from 500,000 a day to 900,000 a day, so we definitely have infiltration going on. Moving on from there, we have received into stock the majority of parts for the Sunset View project. We're only waiting on the Honeywell transmitters for the water meters. The total cost we expect, once we do have everything in stock, is going to be around $16,000 for that. For those parts and equipment, of which is just coming out of operating expenses to my knowledge for now, so.
You can require, well, for us anyways, I don't know what your rules state, but you can require upfront costs for inventory for them. We can. I don't know if you get.
My lack of experience is showing in that sense for sure. I guess I don't know what we can and can't do or where to look that up, but.
I don't think we've ever done that. It wasn't our task, I guess.
I was gonna say, if you don't ask, you can't receive, so
Right.
if you say this is the inventory we already have on hand,
Guy blows a gasket when he gets Nick's bill or Nick's estimate, then you'll know you might have to back off.
Yeah.
But Nick's is all kind of set aside all through public service rules and stuff,
Right,
or
right.
our service
Spelled
rules.
out, yeah.
I mean, it's material costs are just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there's probably easily a $20,000 increase, if not more, in just material.
I was just thinking about that, had we got this treatment plant bid out before COVID, we're probably looking at 11 million rather than 13 million. Almost betting on it, you
And
know.
when I was writing down equipment charges, I was laughing because we're way behind on equipment charges, which I probably should look at. You know, $8 for a pickup truck or $12 for a pickup truck.
I guess whoever you can ask, Alex, to find out whether that's I mean, one thing about that, you're gonna get paid back, at least with
Right, selling water.
fixed
Yeah.
fees and what have you, especially now. They're really gonna be going
Yeah,
out, so.
for sure. I did work with the engineering firm for that project as well, to ask for a relocation of where they're putting the curb stops, just to work more effectively for us, with kind of how we've been doing things. Turns out we were pretty late to the game to talk to him, but he's gonna try to make it work. He said he'll try to get it on to addendum number 6, so it sounds like they've been having quite a few changes. Other than that, Liz has completed the last of her exams and her advanced certification requirements. So pending the receipt of her DNR paperwork, we will move her into the advanced operator category here, and I'm assuming a raise that will go along with that. And then I talked to Peggy, and she is really struggling with the DNR to get her paperwork to come through. She sent it what will now be the 4th time, and they somehow managed to lose it every time, and it's been headache after headache, so
I'll
we
add
keep
that to my
trying.
list.
Yeah.
I'll get a hold of,
So she was gonna mail it out again this week, if it's certified mail or whichever, so hopefully they can't lose it. If it's the post office losing it or the DNR, I don't know.
well, we had the same trouble with Patty that day, and I made a call to Mr. Bourne, and all of a sudden it got taken care of. So I will give him a call.
Maybe they got the same attorneys as Cynthia's got or something like
Yeah.
that, yeah. Handling their paperwork.
And I have what's her name's number at the DNR too.
So,
As far as the Dodge County housing, they should have, Martin Riley should have factored in costs for the utility.
I'm sure they have fudge numbers in there for that kind of allowances for that kind
All
of thing.
grand scheme of things,
definitely.
$90,000 is nothing to that project.
well, and I don't know.
You gotta have electricity.
And that Dodge County is only by name only, that's all state funded.
Right.
That is not Dodge County funded, that is Dodge County Housing Authority, but it's all state funded. And federal money's coming into that too, so.
Well, half of that was in meters and transmitters and stuff, but I don't know if we can bill them for that.
No, you can't. Meters, you can't.
I was crossing my fingers, I was hoping they were gonna just do one meter and supply the water for all of
That's,
us.
I would have preferred, but.
That's what they did over in Horicon, though they piped them all separately, that they could add them later on,
Right.
so.
And we cornered them into the one service. One service wire, but 2 meters obviously.
Mhm.
we bought a lot of used ones from Hartford, because ours won't be here in time.
It's fine.
So we'll hand rig them. So we can
Used ones will last longer than the new ones.
probably.
We did start water service at both 508 and 520 South Main Street for the Hampton houses. And then last week we had an issue at the wastewater plant with one plant was not wasting, or two of the solenoid valves basically were not operating. I troubleshooted it to be, I had power coming out of the main breaker box, but it wasn't making it there. And the breaker wasn't tripped, and I had power at the breaker itself. So, all I did was, we do have three-phase power up there already, and we do have accessory transformers off of those. So I just piggybacked those solenoids off of the transformers.
You don't draw nothing in.
No. So we'll probably have Nate with United will come out and look at it just to try and figure out a little bit more of a professional fix for that, maybe slightly to code. But it works for now. And we'll see if he can pull new wire, but I kind of doubt it. So he's going to come look at it.
It's just being replaced.
That's kind of the worst part. So it's probably, if he can't do it,
Government's exempt from the code.
yeah, if he can't do it cheaply.
It is and it ain't.
You can
Yeah.
run it like that until they remodel all that.
Right.
I
So-
wouldn't even waste your time and money on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, if it's being replaced,
Just,
I mean, you got a year and a half.
I mean, I can look at it and make sure
Whatever.
it's
Well,
safe.
that's
You're
like
talking a
this-
solenoid, you're not talking anything major.
Well, so the hard part with that is that circuit originally powered two different outlets which ran heat tapes for the pumps, but then it also powered two different solenoid valves. So I just hooked the solenoid valves off of that transformer, and then the heat tape outlets I just left off. So when it comes to winter, I don't know if there will be enough power there to run at all.
Sure.
Well, the hard part is the outlet to there, the transformer I'm piggybacking off of runs our decant pumps as well, and those pumps actually run a fair amount of power, and it's sized a little bit close there.
Then you're probably better off getting somebody there just to,
No, but your
Check it.
solenoids aren't even drawing a fraction of an amp.
It's
So
the,
you
it's
got
the
no-
heat
Yeah, well,
tapes
he's
I'm
worried about the
worried
heat tapes.
Yeah, it's not.
those don't draw fractions of amps.
Right, okay. So, we'll have them look at it just to see, try to do it simply, cheaply and simply. If it's not pulling new wire, it's at least add another DIN rail breaker just to make it on its own. Because I put the wire right in with the existing breaker that's feeding something else, so I would prefer it to stay
Good old
that way.
piggyback.
Yeah. We'll see if he thinks it's okay. I didn't have stranded wire either, so solid will work for now. But, yeah. So it's working for now, but he'll come and look at it and let us know if he has any better ideas that we can do cheaply.
Okay,
But that's all I got.
that's all you have. Anybody have any questions for Alex?
Any leads for another person, or?
We had one applicant, and I guess we'll probably have to set up an interview for that, but I don't know how much I can say publicly.
Your gut feeling is telling you you're good, and don't go for it.
Is that the one you talked to me about?
Yeah.
Okay,
So I told him we would talk through things in an interview, but then once I got his application, I'm second guessing that statement, but I kind of already told him that I'd give him an interview.
Doing over the phone.
So I don't know can I personally just interview him over the phone and then
Sure.
before I waste anybody else's time?
sure,
Okay. So
no
we'll just
problem.
cover our butts that way, and that we can talk to him, talk through his resume and the things on it. And then if we decide to move forward from there, we can have a more formal interview process.
All righty. So, all right, that answers my question I was gonna ask. So if nobody has anybody else, we'll move on. The president, I have nothing, no comments today. So the next is Mr. Mayor.
I asked all my questions and good to go.
Okay. Any old business? Any new business?
I have a question related to our, it's kind of our agenda tomorrow evening, but I know one of the things that we'll be talking about is the financial, the borrowing for 2023 for the Juneau Utility, and I wasn't here last month, but I guess I'm looking to find out what the feel of this commission is. I know we'll discuss this further tomorrow, but just for thought process, and so I can't sleep tonight. What dollar amount are we looking at? I know we've bounced numbers around here before.
I think the last one I heard was $1 million.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's $525,000 to pay back sewer for the street projects we already did, and then $475,000 to cover the new projects that are gonna be the project that's going on in Easton.
So that's kind of like the unknown if it's happening this year or not happening this year, but either way, the money's gonna be needed.
Figure we get the money while it's cheaper.
Maybe.
Well, and I
Rather
guess
than waiting another
I'm
year.
asking that also on the basis of we just approved $875,000 here to MSA, and I know that's gonna be covered with Clean Water Fund, but at what point in time do we start getting that charge? Do we need to make sure that we are covered not just for these things here, and making sure we have the right dollar amount? So that's,
We already paid MSA how many $1,000s for
Then another
engineering.
Yeah, that intern
875.
borrowing.
We had that interim
Yeah.
borrowing for $2 million that
$2
covered that.
okay.
We sent a bill to Sensience, we haven't gotten that money.
Now,
Well,
now it'll be incorporated.
now it's
That won't be-
incorporated.
Now it's incorporated
That
into
was
it.
like a tactic.
It was, yeah, scared to get them up square.
Yeah, that was $800,000, wasn't it, something
Yeah,
like
that
that?
was about what it was.
What, the bill that I sent to Cynthia?
Yeah.
241.
Well,
No,
our-
the whole
our-
thing.
The whole bill was 800,000.
Oh, the contract for the treatment plant design and stuff was 880.
Right, but that first one that we built was just the
It
beginning
was
portion of it.
34% of what was billed to date, and that was about $241,000. That was their share.
And you haven't received that yet, you said?
No.
But
we're
they're
we're not
they're not
collecting.
required to pay that because now this takes over.
It was
that.
basically either you work on this contract, or you're gonna owe this for all the money
An
that
eye
was
opener.
spent.
So,
If they weren't gonna move forward,
Thank you.
they'd have to pay.
all right, no problem.
Motion to
Easy
adjourn.
question. Have a motion by Bart, second by me to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried.